Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome to another episode of Whisky Roundtable. My name is Scott Fitzsimons, and the task falls to me again to introduce these lovable idiots we have here on the live stream. Tonight, we are down one Matt Bailey, but we are up to Attwood's from Backwoods, as Matt Bailey unfortunately is called, as we are called away to run a tasting with the Whisky Alement bar to launch a very, very special single cask for their 10th anniversary. That's all right, not jealous, don't care. Whiskey probably tastes like shit anyway. It has been a very, very big whiskey. No news is bigger than the fact that we have our own social media channels now in some vague effort to legitimise what this is going on. But we are now going to take those big questions, pick them apart, answer them one by one. For example, Andy Milne. Do Wi-Fi extenders work? No, we can answer that right now because he's not in Bondi tonight, and he is in
location.
Definitely a con by the internet department. How much of a stir can Alex make on that weird place that is the YouTube comment section this week? Could go either way. How many times can a very, very hungover Scott get Le Mans references into an hour's worth of live chats? Is Matt Bailey the one that really holds all this together? And most importantly, if Beechworth owned the Yakandanda Bakery, is Yakandanda really just an outlying suburb of Beechworth? All these questions and much, much more tonight. But to pull this train away from the station, we're going to ask the greatest of questions, the one we've been asking for generations and will ask for generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen of the panel, of the live stream, all those Facebook bots from offshore that we're paying to up the street numbers on this, what is in your glass tonight?
I'm sorry, guys. That needs a round of applause. And they say that we're not prepared. Like, that is some of the most amazing hungover work I have ever seen you do.
I do most of my best work hungover.
Holy hell.
G'day to David and or Caroline Taylor, to Adam Salters, and to the only people we missed in that intro, which is all our mum and dads, because obviously they're the only people that watch this. So g'day to Vicky Dahlenburg as well.
Hi, Mum. I'm drinking some Elsa Bay. I love this shit. So I thought I'd start on some Elsa Bay tonight. I'm going to try and hide the beer I'm drinking purely because I'll get so much shit in the comments. It's not funny. But I do like this beer quite a lot. So...
Milne?
I won't hide the beer. I'm drinking 4 pints Pacific Ale. But I'm also drinking Anok 2002. It's a small batch release that we did. I think you've got a small amount of stock left. It's like a 14, 15-year-old ex-bourbon.
And what company was that distributed by, Andy?
This wonderful company called Southtrade. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're really good. They're really good.
They're amazing. They're this amazing.
So you doesn't quite fit in the scale of how great. I mean, the brand managers there are superb. Some of the best in the industry.
Yeah.
They just look better. They're very dark and with no internet, is what I've heard.
Yeah. But you know what?
Better in pixels.
Andy, you're gorgeous. I never knew. Wow, we can see you this week.
That's what my mum says to me every week.
And now I will stop being nice. What are you drinking, Attwoods?
I'm on the Spring Bay. I've actually bought a barrel of whiskey for not the virtual one, the one before that.
Did you?
Yeah. I think it's the wild turkey barrel.
We're a big fan of Springbank around here.
Yeah.
I've got this batch 14.
Oof.
Yum.
And I am a big fan of Ian Schmidt.
I like that you're not even drinking the same thing. It's just like, no, I've got this. It's like, you can have that. It's like, there's no sharing of bottles.
We are individual Backwoods.
We should be plugging our own, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm Backwoods, yeah.
I think that's the case of you do you, boo.
Quick shout out to Mark from the Wolfburn Distillery up in the north of Scotland in Thurso, friend of the stream, big daddy of the stream as well. And also to last week's special guest, Robbie Tucker. Yes, no, I have not asked him whether I can call him that. Yes, I'm going to keep doing it until my Wolfburn allocation dries up.
As long as you don't make me call him that, that's fine.
Yeah. Robbie Tuckner, not as good as last week's special guest, but they will do, I suppose. So there you go from Robbie. From Victorian Barrel Brokers.
I just love how much shade is thrown in this chat. and we haven't even started on Matt Bailey yet.
We have so much content for Matt Bailey tonight.
I got a haircut tonight, especially. Yeah.
Yes.
Just clean it. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a haircut. She doesn't even notice. What's the point?
All right, Attwoods, tell us about Backwoods Distillery.
Where do we start?
Well, you can.
Oh, can I just say, I've heard you two are the cutest being interviewed together, and that's why we were like, Scotty's like, we've got to get him on. So we are. Show me all the cuteness.
Leigh, yeah, because Leroy's really boring on his own.
Nothing cute about that.
No, you start. You always start.
All right. So I guess we've been going now for 3 years, and been down for about 4 years. So the first year was kind of about, we left Melbourne and was all about setting up the distillery, and we're lucky enough to be able to do it at home here. So the distillery is actually on our property, just like literally 30 metres from our kitchen table. So it's pretty handy.
It's been good during lockdown.
Yeah, but it's been great too, because we've tried to sort of keep the distillery kind of the ma and pa team kind of thing. So we've actually kept our day jobs for the last 3 years. So it's been full on, but just having it at home here has meant that I can work nights and work weekends, but I'm sort of still home. And for Bree as well, all the things she's doing around her work and just having the distillery right here has just been great. But the good news is we've outgrown it. So we're in the process of moving into a new facility, which is really cool. And actually, I just got a text just when we were waiting that minute and a half for Scotty's introduction that works going to start in there tomorrow. So, we've sort of been waiting, and obviously the COVID thing has really slowed the whole process down. But we're really hoping that we might be able to get open before Christmas.
Oh, that's amazing. Awesome. And set the scene for the country girl like me. How many acres?
So at home, 5 acres.
Oh, the dream.
Lots of veggie beds, a few sheep, a cow. We got a cow last year actually, and
this is all the important stuff that whiskey people want to hear.
Yeah. Just quickly, I think we're going to keep her forever. We've all fallen in love with her, but so we're not very good farmers, but we're very good.
I hear you're very good distillers.
So I suppose our kind of thing has been when we got up here, and I know Scotty knows Yak, and it's just a beautiful place, and it's sort of right in the middle of a lot of amazing produce and wineries. So our goal has kind of been to, I guess, create a whiskey that kind of reflects where we live. We're using kind of grains from, like we call it local grain, like it's only from the Riverina across the river, so from the crew at Voyager. So we only use their stuff.
I was born in the Riverina. So
that's right. I remember.
I was born in Leighton, and my dad was one of the biggest harvesters around New South Wales as a contractor, and actually won a Churchill Fellowship to his contribution to the rice growers industry. So the Riverina is like so dear to my heart. That's where
they're not still there?
No, we had to shift to Victoria. So we're now
that's right.
We're now down there. So love the Riverina.
Yeah. Do you know the guys at Voyager?
No, but apparently they know my family farming name and know of my dad.
Yeah. Well, they seem to know most kind of farmers, and that's where they're the guys that grow all the grain for them. So but I guess we've sort of worked pretty closely and forged a pretty good relationship with them. So we've got a couple of pretty cool projects on the go with them too, with some sort of specialty things that they've done for us. And just their core range of malts are they're just next level. In particular, their rye that we use, just amazing. There's nothing really like it. It's just this sort of hardy little mongrel thing that's really hard to mill. It's really hard to mash. It just gives you a hard time all the way through. But then when you get to the end of it, the result is just amazing. So I guess. Oh, sorry.
Just talking about the region there, to jump in, I heard a rumour Well, actually, it's not a rumor because you told me just before we went live, but I'm just going to use that as a segue to create content for this. Being a regional area, you can now go out and go to restaurants and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So what was it like going into a brewery to have a feed for the first time in 17 years?
So Saturday we drove over to Bright, which is only about 45 minutes.
I fucking love Bright. Oh my god!
So we went to the brewery for lunch, and it was an incredible experience. Someone bought me a cold glass of wine and then took the glass away. My food, I didn't have to clean up. It was amazing.
I was in the pub here on Friday night when it opened.
Oh yeah,
and,
the little country pub in Yak.
Everyone's just walking in, just like yes, like everyone's clapping and high fives. It's like the pub is open. It was so much,
yeah. So we've had a pretty good week out and about. Mm-hmm.
I'm currently Googling how far Alexandra is from Gornong, which is where I am with my dad.
What's the big town that's near?
It's right in between Bendigo and Elmore.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably
5 hours?
Yeah.
6 hours?
Yeah.
Might be 3.
My geography is not my strong point.
I always
it just depends on how fast you drive. That's
that's
you going by horse, you going by car, bike,
by Commodore, which gets you there way faster. All right, we've got some comments saying that your single malt is sold out.
Yeah, well, it was amazing. We sold out our first releases of rye and single malt in 24 hours. So we're pretty chuffed with that. It was pretty exciting. It was a crazy day, but it was really cool. And,
it was a crazy day because the night that we pressed send on the pre-release email, I'd sort of checked everything. Checked the website, checked the shopping cart, checked everything. Then I pressed send, and then we're just getting all these emails from people going, we can't find the cart to purchase. And I hadn't pressed this button that basically on your phone adds the little shopping cart icon.
One button.
One little button. So I spent till midnight that night replying to messages going, turn your phone sideways. And then I managed to find the button to turn it on, but it didn't seem to affect sales too much.
No, which was lucky because
could have really that one up.
It's interesting because obviously that first release single malt and rye came out in August. You had plans for that. There's quite a long story in terms of Backwoods and what it is and how it's come to be. And we might even let you finish that story if we stop interrupting you at one point tonight. But how do you tell that story from a virtual point of view? And how did you go about that as your very first release to tell the story of the distillery in 2020?
Yeah, well, I guess we'd when we very first set up, on the property, we just started our socials. And so we'd been really building up a bit of a following on our socials from sort of the day we got out a little test still to moving up to the big Stilvester. And people just really seemed to love the whole process of setting up the distillery and getting to the point of a release. So we sort of had built up a fair bit of, excitement around it leading up. A couple of years ago, we launched the Founders Club, which sold out to 250 members that pre-ordered the bottle of the first release. So we had that behind us and all those 250 ambassadors, really, that were kind of going out and telling people about, they were Founders members for Backwoods and they were getting their first bottle soon. So I feel like we'd set ourselves up quite well for a digital release. And even though at the start of the year we had planned to have a big launch at the distillery site that we're moving to, we're heading to Whisky Fair and we had a launch at Whisky Alement all booked in. Even though those things didn't happen, I think because of all the virtual events that had sort of been established and people were kind of used to the virtual event space, we managed to have a launch still with Whisky Alement. And we chatted with you at the Whisky Forum, Scotty, and so I think we were, it was just kind of lucky that we'd already sort of got that digital base, and maybe it's because living in rural Victoria, we kind of had to get ourselves out there because we couldn't be travelling down to Melbourne every weekend to sell ourselves. So we just sort of had a good setup, I think.
Originally it was sort of really disappointing. looking forward to this release for so long, and then you can't do it. But it actually worked out really well. It was a whole lot of fun, and the whole virtual thing has sort of been, like a bit of a revelation. It's been fun to be able to be able to connect to other events and things that we wouldn't normally be able to get to. And so it's been actually really cool for the silver linings, I reckon, for the kind of whiskey community, that it's actually, stuff like this it's really working. Yeah.
We are pretty keen to open up though and actually talk to people face to face and share it.
that would be cool.
Because that might be a few years of that, and then we'll get sick of it maybe. But we just can't wait to
miss the virtual days.
Yeah.
I know. I find that quite odd, Bree, because a lot of people are telling me they much prefer me to be in another state when they chat.
You can come visit once a year, maybe.
You're better at a distance
with a tracker.
Yeah.
When there's a button you can just click and go off. Yeah,
Now, guys, tell me about the equipment you run. Just because I'm the person that actually cares about the stills and distilling, not just about drinking and getting pissed. So please tell me what you're running with.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess the star of the show is our affectionately named Sylvester Stallone.
What? It's amazing.
He needs his own Instagram, actually.
He should have his own Instagram. But
I'm coming to see Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, so he's a Mark Burns still. So he was built in Griffith.
Oh, wow.
So kind of local as well, and local for you. And but Mark was sort of a great guy to work with for designing a still, because he's obviously the distiller, and I think he's releasing some whiskey soon. But to work with someone that kind of knows how to run a still, and then you kind of being able to talk about what my ideas were and how he thought they would translate. And so I suppose that whole process took about, maybe 6 months, and then another 6 months to build it. So we've done it. I don't know. He's kind of, Sylvester's, I guess, pretty unique in some ways. Like, he's got quite a large kind of reflux ball just at the top of the boil. He's got quite a short line arm. We're trying to get some oils to carry over. It's a shell and tube condenser. But it's pointing slightly down. Yeah. Shell and tube condenser, and it's actually, the condenser's kind of on steroids because we recycle dam water, so the water's not very cold. So we've got 16 stainless baffles and a lot of cold water just pumping through that thing, where a lot of other condensers only will have about 8. So stuff like that has just made a huge difference, that we can just recycle dam water and sort of cool the distillate enough to condense it.
And the other equipment we've sort of had upcycled from farm equipment. Like the mash tun was a milk vat.
Yeah. You guys are just talking dirty to me. Keep going.
And the fermenter was, the first one we used was like an old soft drink mixer from Murray Breweries, which is now Bilson's in Beechworth. It
really gets around that thing. Yeah. Now Dean Drews from Coral's got it.
We weren't going to mention Drews' name. We had a bet. We weren't allowed to say his name the whole time.
You just lost
now.
So we spent a lot of money on Sylvester, so the rest of it was sort of see what we could get cheap as we could.
Yeah.
But into the new space, we've got coming, which is exciting.
Yeah, so we're sort of upscaling everything just so we've got a little bit more time. We sort of work on 1,000 litre, so 1,000 litre mash, 1,000 litre fermenters, and we're upping everything 1,000. So we've got a little bit of extra time. We can sort of get the job done, and a bit of extra time for the distillery door and those kinds of things. But then hopefully we can kind of work the system to its capacity too, and increase production.
And the mash tun actually will shovel out for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's my favourite part.
I know the muscles.
That's my favourite part of it. Everyone's like, "Oh God, I hate this," and I'm like, "I love doing it," but it's probably because I don't do it every day.
Yeah, it looks like it sucks.
Yeah.
I think I did it twice, and then I said I was too short to lift to get it over the mash tun. Yeah.
We've got some pig farmers that come and get all the mash, and if you right and you call them, they come and they'll actually shovel it out for you. And
I'm not ready yet. You'll need to do it yourself, mate.
Yeah.
Free labour.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys are like living my absolute dream right now. How'd you get into this? How did you go, fuck it, I'm going to open a distillery?
Yeah, it's funny.
We always blame it on the kids because we had kids and then we started.
Ladies and gentlemen, we drink responsibly around here. Alcohol is over 18. And please pace yourself when you're drinking. Continue the story.
So we had the kids, and then we sort of we'd sit at home on a Saturday night and we started exploring whiskey and
in moderation.
Yes, in moderation and responsibly while the kids were sleeping, and then and I don't know. I think it was one day.
So stop. We grew up here, like in the northeast, right? And then we're in Melbourne. We went overseas a bit. For nearly 20 years, we lived away. And then we decided we'd get back to the northeast. We wanted to live that country lifestyle. When we got back here, we sort of had gotten into drinking whiskey, but then I think, so it was 2016, and at that time was when Sullivan's Cove won the World Awards. Oh, well, a couple of years after that then. There was a lot of articles coming out around the climate in the high country and this part of Victoria and Tassie being, really good for whiskey making. Moving to Yackandandah, it's just like, I don't know, you couldn't drive into this town and think there shouldn't be a whiskey distillery here. Like, it just suits this town perfectly, really. The history of it and, just the look of it. And it just sort of, we started talking about it as a bit of a pipe dream. But then Leigh went to Tassie, Peter Bignell and a few others down there, and came home and he was like, actually just set up in sheds. Because I think we'd seen Scottish distilleries in Ireland, and it just seemed unachievable. Like, you could never set something like that up. So then going down to Tassie, it was like, well, actually, it is possible to do it in the shed of your, at your property. So we'd sold a house in Melbourne, so we had a little bit of cash. We used to buy Sylvester and then scrape the rest together, and that's sort of how it started.
It's the dream.
I want to quickly ask you, and Jonathan did ask this question about 15 minutes ago, and he's probably gone by now, but I've been waiting to ask it because I think it fits in well. That conversation at that point right there was, if you drive into Yackandandah when the new site is opened, will there be a distillery to visit?
When the new site is open?
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. We'll be doing tours and tasting, sales. Yeah. So that's why we're moving, because we're restricted operating out of the property. We can't make sales from here. So we do have visitors when we can fit people in, but we can't sell them anything afterwards. So, we're not really supposed to have a lot of tours and stuff like that here. So, that was always part of the plan, would be to move. He's still there. If you come around Christmas time, we will hopefully be open.
Oh, wow. As soon as the borders are open, I'm still very lucky, and Speakeasy Group have been amazing. I still have a bucket load of annual leave. As soon as those borders are open, I'm like, I'm going to spend so much time down there. I think the entire chunk of my leave just getting my Victoria out of my system, including flight and all of the Great Ocean Road and seeing Dad and touching cattle and sheep and horses. And I cannot wait till the borders are open.
Yeah, we can't wait too.
We're coming.
Yeah.
Quick question. How do people get access to all of your wonderful whiskey when it's up and when you have stock?
Yeah, the best way would be jump on our website and get onto the mailing list, because we did we sold out via that mailing list last time, and it's grown a fair bit since then. So, that would be the best way. I mean, we do a tiny bit of wholesale, not much. We don't have enough volume.
So let's talk about the wholesale.
Sure.
Heavily focused.
I've got the first geeky question of the night. Talking about shell and tube condensers, is anyone in Australia using worm tubs?
Good question. I actually don't. I don't know. I don't know. Do you know, Scott?
Way to kill a room. Way to kill a room, Andy.
I haven't seen one.
No, neither have I.
I've seen those tiny little kind of, they can be 25 litre sort of, I don't know, they're Czech or Polish or something, and they have little shell and tube condensers, but nothing commercial.
We've got one of them in a couple of our venues as well.
Yeah.
John Jarvis said Sullivan's Cove.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe. I reckon he could be right.
Think back to my times. They may well do, actually. John had known being from Hobart Whiskey, a little bit closer to us, and was actually allowed into Tasmania at the moment.
It's interesting because it's something that it's a historic thing to do in Scotland, and there's 16 distilleries left doing it. So, it's unusual, to sort of call out shell and tube almost. Because it's now the norm. So it was the fact that you mentioned it. I was just like, is that a thing here as well?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we have that confirmed. Sally.
Yes, confirmed.
Yeah.
There we go. Awesome.
Thanks for that contribution, Milne. You can move it back down again. Squire Ross, how is that red gum cast going? And we did, and thank you to Robbie for confirming that Sullivan's Cove information. We did talk a lot about wooden barrels last week, and maybe let some Rutherglen Muscat secrets escape. I don't think Dean Druce is going to talk to me anymore. But so, how is?
That's my musket.
Presumably there is some sort of red gum barrel with some booze in it around near where you guys are.
Yeah, so
a couple.
That's one of our things we've worked on over the years. But we've got two that are pretty much ready, which is really exciting. So we're gonna. Oh, wow. So but basically we've got 6 red gum casks in the bond store now. These first 2 were actually destined very excitingly to be fence posts, and they were set up in a shed for like that. He reckons they're a good 40 or 50 years old, and he dug them out and turned them into a couple of barrels for us. And then we've got the 4 other ones were actually vats from a Barossa winery. So they pulled them out, pulled the vats down, and he took all the staves and started to turn them into barrels for me. So
we've got rye in some and single malt in some.
Yeah. So really, So I suppose, like, I know Dean Jackson did his red gum cast finish, but these are 100% Asian red gum. So they're really.
I think Andy's got a question.
As the foreigner of the group, can you explain to me red gum?
Sorry, hang on. As the what?
The foreigner.
Oh yeah, I'll let that slide. Continue.
Not the. What is red gum, and what does that? Do we know what that does to whiskey?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose I'll sort of go back to, like, we got our inspiration to do this from a winery just down the road from here that do a Shiraz in red gum. I'd love to say I've tasted it, but it's at $400 a bottle. I haven't tried it. But that wasn't our inspiration for doing it either. We just thought it would be interesting.
We wanted to get the cask, and they wouldn't give us.
So we found our own way to do it. But the red gum's really, I guess, it's a really dense wood. It's more dense than oak, but it's actually more porous. So you find that the aging is really quick. It's just moving in and out of those tiny pores so fast. So it's. I suppose it's
it's a eucalyptus tree.
Yeah. It's a eucalyptus tree, and it grows along the rivers. So they go really huge, really big gum trees.
When a little tree wants to grow up and it tries really, really hard and goes, I think I can, and one day it grows into a big tree. For obviously the purposes of to be cut down and to hold booze.
It's great.
I just watched it the other night.
So when you refer to gum trees in Australia, that's a red gum?
Give me
anything eucalyptus, I think we refer to as gum.
Basically, Dad always taught me that if there's red gum and grey gum, it's good country. If it's iron bark, it's pretty tough country.
Yeah, right.
Red gum loves water. Loves lots of water.
Yeah.
And whiskey.
Yeah.
I've got a book for you, Andy, to read after this.
About trees.
Flora and fauna of Australia.
That's a really good whiskey, right?
Yeah, it's the story hasn't dated particularly well, but it's I'll tell you about it after. Because there's an actual question, legitimate topic to talk about. As well, we're talking about oak. Is Mark from Wolfburn inquires about what size of barrels are you guys using? Is that consistent across the range?
Yeah. We started with hundreds, and now we've moved a year ago, was it?
Yeah.
To 200s.
Yeah. So this year we've only refilled, like second filled some 100-litre casks, but everything new has been 200 litres. Or 225. So so I guess we've learned a lot about maturation in our first 3 years, and particularly doing it here. Like we've got the kind of really cold winters of, it can get down to -5, and then we have really hot summers where it can get up to 45. So that variation means you've got to manage your cask really, really carefully. So, it's literally cutthroat. One day, the next, you can taste the barrel and there's a change. It's different. So I'm sort of looking forward to the 200-litre cask not being so.
Bold.
Yeah, you've just got to. It's
so
sort
moody.
Sorry.
So moody. Yeah.
Moody. There is quite I don't know whether people know that. Sorry, in Sydney, there's quite a large variance in temperature in regional Victoria, like from hot to cold. And that can only help with your maturation and well and truly speed it the fuck up.
Yeah. We were talking, I think it was at that, when we did the distillers dinner for the forum, Scotty and Fred from Sullivan's Cove, we were talking about like how I cask in like the November and you think this is shit, like we've really stuffed this one up. And then in April, you try it again and it's amazing. Just like that, it can just change so quickly over that summer. So we always wait till after the summer to taste and get an idea of how the whiskey's going. Yeah. If you taste it at the wrong time of the year.
And I know a couple of other distillers are doing this now. You're kind of talking about your whiskies in terms of summers they've been through rather than the years, because summers just have such a huge impact. That if you get through another summer, some serious maturation and changes, all those chemical changes you want to happen just accelerate so much.
Yeah.
Just on that, talking to other distilleries and that sort of thing, a quick question coming in here. Do the majority of all Aussie distillers socialise and talk to each other a lot? You like to think it's a big family, or truly, and you all hate each other, don't you? Spill the beans.
That's the thing we've missed most this year, like not being able to get together at events like Whiskey and Dreams, and we had one distillers catch up where we went to Blackgate for the first time. We hadn't been to Blackgate. Janice and Brian had been down here a couple of times, so we drove up there and met the guys from Timboon and Dean from Corowa, and a few other distilleries there too, like Crafty was there and Marty from Riverbourne, and it was just, that's the only time we've caught up with everyone this year, and so the ADA conference is it's really fun.
But it is kind of true though. It's very nice. Like we do, there's so much help being thrown around, and just like having Corowa so close to us. And said we weren't going to talk about Dean.
I think we've mentioned him 3 times.
But just sort of having Dean close, we work pretty closely together. And, it's great. And sort of this year in particular, I've got to know Josh Timboon really well, and Would
you say that you're his mentor?
Dean's,
yes. And yes. Josh's?
I am. Yes. They're my pupils, yes.
There's been so much shit chat in our Whisky Roundtable group chat. Is there a distillers chat that you're all in?
Yeah.
And
it's all about like the pecking order and who's mentor and who's
someone add me to that shit, please. I promise I won't interfere too much.
That's pretty funny. But also like the amount of other distillers that bought our booze in the release.
Oh yeah.
Crazy. And so Dean from Spring Bay and Seblesfield over in Adelaide, and so everyone was each other's booze as well, which is amazing.
Yeah. And I remember when Crafty and I were kind of doing our first mashes and just backwards and forwards and sort of, you just nut out things, and you have a little problem and straight away you throw it out and everyone just workshops it and you get all this advice, and it's really cool.
Yeah, add me to that group. I remember the first time I saw Crafty. I think I was at an Oak Barrel event, and this guy's just shooting questions like you would not believe, right up front to the ambassador. And I'm like, "What the fuck are you? Like, how do you know this much?" Like, I'm literally sitting there just going, "All right, I need to meet you." And like, he's going at the end and like, "Hey, how you doing? How are you asking so much about worm tubs and all of this sort of stuff?" He was amazing.
Yeah.
But it's great that there's kind of like a whole group coming up through it, because I remember talking to Anthony Wills from Cure Homan, and he was kind of one of the first.
Flex,
name drop.
He takes the piss out of me way too much for me to flex with him. Like he called me an absolute wanker in front of my parents, and said my food was shit. So I love him. I love him to bits, but he is also great at insulting me. So there's no compliments to him. But he said like he was inundated with questions from new distillers, because he was one of the first distillers in Scotland to kind of really start distilling again, open up those distilleries. And it's
sorry, totally said nudists then, not new distillers.
I'm always saying nudists. Apparently, it's my thing.
That's the next stream. That's the one we do at 8:00.
That's after hours.
8 p.m. one. But no, he was always inundated with people asking him, it's like, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do that? Yeah. And it was kind of, he was at that level that was, you're new, and then 5 years later, everyone came across. Whereas, so there wasn't this community, he would offer his help, but it was always, people went to him. And it's great that Australia has this kind of community of like, actually, everyone's kind of all around the same kind of time period and just going like, yeah, you can tell me about this and you can teach me this and you can teach me that. And it's like, it's just such a, you really kind of sense it as an outsider just looking and going, you guys just actually just all love this thing together.
Well, even like when in the lead up to our release, it was like, everyone was ringing each other and going, what date are you releasing? Okay, well, I'll hold off. I won't release till next month. And we were like, oh my God. We all tried to plan our releases around each other, so we weren't kind of,
That's amazing. I wish brand ambassadors would do that in the whiskey industry. Because suddenly you'll have no events for weeks, and then all of a sudden you'll have this one night you'll have like 4 invitations.
Six in a day.
All at the same time,
Yeah, I know. It's pretty amazing.
So just to finish up that concept, which distillers do you hate but pretend to be nice to get access to their whiskies?
I think they pretend to be nice to you, Scotty.
It's the bottle stores. Yeah, no, fair enough. That point.
Attwood, I've got you back here.
Thanks.
You're breaking up. I can't hear you, actually. I didn't catch that.
You've got bad internet too, Scotty. Yeah.
That little, Bondi Street in Yakandanda. But it is like we've had some great nights out there over the years at the Blackgate Distillery where you guys all sort of met up, and it is such a great hub for that because it's they've got a fair bit of space, and it is kind of a little bit like space where no one can hear you tiny dancer at 3 a.m. at Blackgate, so it's a good sort of release.
Yeah. It's so much fun out there. They're just bloody legends, and they love a party and just love getting together. And they're just they're awesome.
Yeah, very hospitable.
Where do I sign up?
I want that 3 a.m. karaoke. I mean,
yeah. Well, they had that huge speaker setup. It was, Yeah. Leroy tried to play his metalcore at about 1 a.m. and everybody was like,
things are getting flat, so
we want Dixie Chicks, mate.
I feel like we're going to get along great.
The secret to it is about 2 a.m., find the guitar and go, gee, I wouldn't mind hearing a bit of Paul Kelly right now, hand it to Brian, and then the night is away.
Yeah, that's what happened. And him and Leroy and Brian tried to play a little duet together. No, it didn't really go very well.
We'd had a few too many whiskeys, I think. Yeah, we we thought it was really cool, but we sort of noticed no one was really gathering around.
Yeah. And they were just two men sitting alone in the dark with their guitars.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell a quick story, but I won't name names on this one. But my first visit, there was a group of us that went out, and there was one gentleman who came with us, and it turned out it was a big party, all that sort of stuff. The next morning when we were driving back, it turned out that his fiance thought that he couldn't come home because they lived out of town a little bit. Thought he couldn't come home because he was running the City to Surf marathon, and so he was like, "Yeah, I got to go home and look a bit sweaty and find some clothes because that's what I'm doing today." And that was his excuse. So we were like, "What? What do you mean?" It was like, she let me come because I'm running the City to Surf today, and just went to Blackgate instead. If you know, you know. For anyone who's listening in,
let's hope the partner isn't listening in.
Yeah.
Although,
People sat on the sofa right now going,
really? Just lost one follower.
You'll see the drop.
Breaking news.
Oh,
That's my mother-in-law.
I think Sue
we've got a mum.
normally lucks out and gets about 10 minutes after we've wrapped up. So thank you, Sue. Lovely that you could join us tonight. And thank you for joining all of our parents in being the only ones watching this tonight.
It says there that there's only like 5 people watching.
Some exciting news on the Backwoods social media. I think it was today, if not it was yesterday, about an upcoming release of a single cask, a first single cask.
Yeah.
Considering we're throwing you under the bus for all your secrets here, anyway, in terms of like red gum cask and that sort of stuff, we're going to throw you under the bus for this one, and please give us some details on this thing that is upcoming.
Sure. So the single cask.
You just got permission.
Yeah. We've had kind of our eye on this one, and we were saying to Scotty before that we kind of felt like we had to sell it because it was just the go-to. No, but it was always the go-to.
No drinking, honey.
Yeah.
You need to sell this
So it was always this cask that we, like when people would visit and you'd give a little nip out of a barrel, we'd always go to it because it was just so delicious. So I kept looking at it and thinking, this thing, we're going to we're going to drink it all. So so it's a French oak cask. It's 2.5, nearly 3 years old. Its previous content is a little bit mysterious, but it's supposed to be a wine cask, but it's got this sort of, I guess, really some similarities to some of our fortified casks. So we're not 100. We're going to call it a wine cask, but we're not 100% sure. But it sounds funny, but I suppose when you kind of compare it to the others and you think about what it tastes like, it's like, hang on, it doesn't taste like a wine cask. So so it came out of the cooperage, late wine cask, but it's kind of mysterious. So it's 13, so you can't argue with it. It's mysterious, it's weird, but it's we're going to release it at 2 strengths as well. So we're doing half at a kind of, I guess, 46.
That's my magical number.
You know what? It's funny, Alex, because I think we were listening in that night. You guys were talking about your favourite ABV or your preferred ABV, and we just that day settled on the 46% of this release. And then you said that, and we were like, yeah.
Yeah.
New mum of the group.
Oh, that's my mum!
Yay for mums!
I am so happy how this thing is working out. This is
I didn't know they could even use this. No, they're up in
Dahlenburg.
In a caravan.
I've got 2 more nerdy things I want to say at the barrel, though.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Down, Mum. Please talk.
Sorry, we're talking barrels. Yeah. The other release is going to be at 55%, and the reason for that is because we actually this whiskey was aged at 2 strengths. So about 6 months ago, I tasted it and thought, it was delicious, but I just kind of wanted to add another dimension to it. So I added water to it and brought it to 55. So by doing that, you get that different interaction. So the spirit and the wood will interact differently at different strengths, and even the water will take flavors out from the wood when you lower the ABV. So it just added this whole new dimension to it.
You want to tell them what your marketing idea was?
No, yes.
Can't do that. There's a rule for Roundtable.
When we release this, he goes, I think we should call it like the 3D whiskey. And I'm like,
it was like, you just hear it playing like,
3D whiskey, because it's got 3 dimensions.
Okay, it's got a new dimension. She just looked at me like,
no, Leroy, no.
Nah. Yeah, you just made the whiskey and shut up.
Yay, Vicky!
It was actually a very good 3D whiskey that was released many years ago that Milne might be familiar with. It was a blended malt for 3D distilleries by the Carstrength.net boys. It was Dalhousie, Duffton, and I forget what the other one was, but three Ds, and it came with like 3D glasses. So actually, it's bloody.
Oh my! Are you serious?
No, I got one somewhere.
Don't encourage this, Scotty.
Bloody genius.
Yeah, honestly.
That sounds like a
Sometimes if I've been out and I come home and he's watching movies with his 3D glasses that actually have a cord that attach to the speakers. What are they attached to?
I haven't done that since the early noughties.
Yeah. We don't want to this idea. It's not cool.
3D's not cool anymore.
No.
I know.
Our winning was the third.
Thank you. Yeah. But I think it's bloody good whiskey. I did have a question lined up, but I have no idea about what, because we've gone. Oh no, yes. So this presumably through your web store, your mailing list is the place to sign up for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is the next release.
Yes.
Well, actually we have a rye coming out at the same time. So yeah, the rye is a two cast batching.
Yep.
American oak.
I might just slide into your DMs.
So
How
much of like rye and single malt are you kind of doing 50-50, or are you pushing towards one or the other?
It's pretty much 50-50. But this year though I've made salt, and I guess most of next year I'll make rye and sort of do it that way. I'll sort of have a year on single malt, year rye, and try and lay cast.
Yeah. And are you doing like 80-90% rye, or are you doing?
No, so so I mentioned that rye grain we used before. Like, it's sort of this drought hardy thing that was neglected. The guys from Voyager sort of reclaimed it and got a crop out of it, but it's really punchy and small. So we like
talking grain size.
Yeah, grain size. It's actually a lot smaller than a regular commercial rye.
Yeah, so the tear weight was smaller. Yep.
Yeah, so it's really flavoursome and punchy. So we experimented and we did high levels of rye.
60%.
But we did high levels, and it was full on. So we've just dialed it down a bit with some barley and some wheat as well. We added a bit of wheat, and we just found the wheat kind of smoothed out the peaks on the. Yeah, so it works beautifully. So it's only 10% wheat. Yeah.
See, that's one thing. That's one thing I really wish that we were doing in Australia is basically testing the different malting grades, because we have pretty strict malting grades in a lot of our grains, like malting grade and then feed grade 1, 2, 3. What I think we're missing out is on opportunities of different flavour profiles with those grain sizes that may not classify as, say, malting grade or feed grade 1 or food grade. So things like working with little companies like Voyager Malts is something that's really cool, that they can do this, because they do need to change their malting techniques to that grain and specifically just to that grain. So I think it's a big opportunity that we have here in Australia, that we can start working with grains that may not necessarily meet like the malting grade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Surely yield comes into that, because I know, that's why Scotland's gone to very much 2 or 3 styles of barley, purely based on yield and output. And it's there's all these historical styles of barley that we could use, and Golden Promise being sort of the most famed of them. but we don't use it so much because the yield is far less, and people have to work towards targets and numbers and so forth. So do we have do we have an understanding of the Australian grains and yield output kind of element? Like you're the grain people, so it's not a trigger question. It's just like, is there an understanding?
It's fun, like from the distilling perspective, it's that kind of balance between kind of flavour and yield, and deciding what's more important. And I suppose for us, it's, because we are small, flavour is kind of what we're after, but obviously we need the yield. We need some yield, but but I reckon we've always favoured flavour, and but I don't know. But it comes back to that argument too, like. So, a lot of distillers will argue that grain doesn't matter that much, but we're obviously we've taken we've put so much work into our mash bills that we obviously think it does.
Yeah.
Can I ask then, from like the consumer's point of view, and obviously releases in the future are going to be maybe single malt and rye, not necessarily concurrently, but you did release like the first release was a single malt and a rye, and we've got this pretty good groundswell of Australian ryes at the moment with Gospel and Archie Rose and that sort of thing. Peter Bignell, friend of the stream, Flex there, I've got his mobile number, don't talk about it. Peter Bignell has been doing this for a little while by himself, and I remember like quite vividly whiskey fairs and stuff where the market just wasn't quite ready for Australian rye whiskey. How have you like seen the consumer reaction when they try both together and just the feedback you're getting?
It's been really interesting actually, because most people come to visit us, they're like single malt, drink single malt, and then we get them to taste the rye. And hey, Peter, we know Peter too, Scott. Then we get them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just going to flex. Dave Broom just sent me a winky face.
Yeah. Okay. Where's that?
Flex. Continue, please. Sorry.
So they'll come to the distillery saying we only drink single malt, and then they'll try the rye, and it's like an epiphany or something that they've, can't believe they've never tried rye before, and they actually quite like it. And we weren't going to initially release both the rye and single malt on the same day, but then we actually were just a bit time poor, and we thought, well. And then with all the other distilleries that were releasing, like we had Chief Sun came and visited, and they had a release coming out the next week, and we just knew that we couldn't really fit in the two releases. So we thought, let's just put them both out together and we'll see what happens. And it was actually the best thing we could have done, because so many people bought a bottle of each at the checkout. And I think a lot of them hadn't tried rye before. And now we've just had a lot of really great feedback on that. It's been people's first rye that they've tried, and now they're, and with obviously Archie Rose kind of picking that off with their releases, and now the Gospel, like everyone's loving that Gospel single cask release.
It's kind of, like I know kind of Peter has really paved the way for a Jane Rye, but then kind of Archie Rose getting on board and Gospel, like for small distilleries like us, it's just great that education around rye is happening. Because we're seeing interest in it, but certainly there's way more interest in single malt, but I guess the consumers are becoming far more interested in that, and that's really cool.
I reckon we got a couple of messages about the rye, and it was people kind of surprised that they liked it. So
it's what brought me back into American whiskey. In my drinking, I kind of drank a lot of cheap bourbon when I was younger, moved to single malt, and that was...
Didn't we all? I still do. Hashtag love Jack Daniels, but...
And,
we were going to go a full episode without Alex mentioning Jack Daniels.
So close. But I worked next door to the Whisky Exchange before I worked for them. And I was like, so much good whiskies, what can I drink? And that's where they gave me like 2 or 3 different ryes. I went, oh shit, like American whiskey's actually pretty, like it's not kind of cheap bourbon and that's it. And I was like, oh fuck, this is really good. And that really kind of rye whiskey just sort of circled me back to going, actually, this is a whole different style of flavour that I just completely wasn't aware of. And I think it's an unknown because it's a small category of a graded category. But
what's really
it's full of flavour, and it's just like there's so much going on with rye.
Well,
it's delicious,
that's
and the variance, as you say, like with the the amount of barley and the amount of wheat and that sort of element. Like there's so much variety in that category.
The cool thing about rye is, like, for Australian conditions, it's the perfect grain because it can handle drought and it'll grow anywhere. So yeah, although that might affect your yield, but it really suits Australian conditions, and I think it's really exciting because
Just to do a bit of house cleaning on this one, we've thrown around the concept yield quite a bit. There's a few questions in. When we talk about yield, like what are you guys talking about? Like physical, the amount of alcohol you're getting for amount of grain, or like yield in terms of flavour, or like when you say yield, what do you mean?
Yield for alcohol. So so obviously basically the ethanol that you produce through fermentation is kind of what distillers will call their yield, or they'll talk about conversion in the mashing process. So how much fermentable sugar are you getting from the grain? So if you're not getting enough fermentable sugar, then it's low yielding. Yeah. And then flavour's the other thing you consider, I suppose. Like you can have a high yielding grain, but it's not really that flavoursome.
Yeah, and that's obviously we're all in this to make as much whiskey as cheaply as possible and make as much money as possible. That's why we're all here.
Absolutely.
We're loaded at the moment, just money's rolling.
And just on that comment, like Mark
Said no distiller ever.
Yeah. So when the new site's open and you've got a little bit more production, you got your cow, does the cow get the draft, or is that what you're feeding the kids?
No, so the cow definitely gets a couple of barrels of it. And the kids are actually making
pour
whiskey
milk on it.
dog biscuits out of some of it.
Yeah, you just pour milk on it, and it's fucking great.
Yeah, it's very
Milk and a little
nutritious.
bit of sugar, yeah.
The
Doesn't
kids are-
everyone do that? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it tastes so much better than Wheat Bix does.
You obviously didn't eat enough wheat bigs. I was an 8.
You ate 8 Wheat Bix.
8 wheat bigs. So how many you do? Brett Leigh did like 11, and I'm not Brett Leigh, obviously, but I did about
8, just the one time or regularly.
I know, in my life. That's how it works, right? I don't eat food. It's not fair. I wanted to be part of it, so I just count,
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
We've got a couple of questions that we throw around, especially getting to an hour of us just talking shit. Desert Island Dram for both of you.
Ooh, good one.
I always listen in on this one because I never know what mine would be. I'd probably, this is going to sound bad. This is going to sound bad for a distiller, but...
Oh, shut up. Mine's Jack Daniels.
I'd probably say tequila.
Excellent response.
Oh,
She
I kind of
Bree's
had
got
the feeling that you and I we're gonna be good. We're good.
Bree's always the person.
pointing at me.
She always brings out the tequila. It's like, oh no, like really, we know where this is going to go. And,
I can handle it.
That's
You let
what
us know next time you're in Mandurin.
that's what every tequila girl says. I can handle it. And then we become woo girls dancing on a table and become a country song, which is called Tequila Makes Her Clothes Fall Off. Like,
Hey.
Good tequila, good times,
Yes.
That was funny, actually. The first ADA conference I went to, I had all the whiskey distillers drinking tequila at the bar. That was a good night.
Yeah.
So tequila, what would yours be?
Well, mine's kind of embarrassing because the person's here and he's listening. But
I'm joking.
I love rye. Like rye's my thing. Love it. And the first rye whiskey that I really loved was Peter Bignell's. So I would take take that with me. Yeah.
And he was an 11 a day kid by the looks of that. So definitely, that makes sense now. That's where he gets it from.
One whole row. Was there 11 in a row? That's crazy. He said one row when I was a kid. So
That's a big
That's
box.
like a full box, isn't it?
I actually have a problem with that. Why is there 11 in a row when there's not 12?
It's the same with Tim Tams, Alex. There's 11 Tim
Who
Tams.
puts
in a-
11?
Don't
Yeah.
ruin that for me. Stop. Is there 11 Tim Tams?
Yeah.
Thank God I'm not eating
That's how we met. We met over a fight about how many Tim Tams are in a packet.
Thank God I'm not eating 12.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
It begs the question, are they giving you one extra or one less?
Yeah.
One less.
It's gotta be a dozen.
It's always we're getting shafted.
Far more important than that, though, and I think where we've just scratched the surface here, is who was correct in that argument. Who won, and who was won. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
not a debate.
Did you just do this?
Yeah.
Did you do that? You guys are my two favourite humans.
No, I didn't.
I thought you was like...
I really wish I did that.
and so, Leigh, was that like, and we can talk here. It's not like we're live or anything. Was that, did you throw that argument in the hope, look, I might be punching a bit here. This is my way in.
Yeah, and then I had to deliver her a couple of packets of Tim Tams to her front door. It worked a treat.
I like that. It requires the follow-up.
Nice.
Yeah.
This was like 22 years ago.
To prove she was right. Yeah.
That's my problem, that I constantly have Tim Tams stocked in my fridge. I need to convince Amanda to bring me Tim Tams.
Don't change it for it.
Ask him how many are back.
Well, I can hear the YouTube comment section, that very weird like firing up. It's getting busy now.
Oh, fuck.
Show me your fridge.
All right, and one more question that divides them, and I think you know this one. Which one it is, Scotty?
I hope it's one that I've got written up here on my little board where I
flash it. Oh, sorry. Have I?
No, I have no idea what you're going to say. Otherwise, I'm going to have to
don't ask them to flash it. Come on,
I know. He's been reported for that.
It's not what we're about.
Flash
So
it,
one
Scotty,
last thing, flash it. Go on.
I don't know. There's like 10 it could be.
Just flash it. Oh, flash one.
What are you flashing? I'm scared.
Don't flash it. Flash one.
We all are right now.
Yeah.
We're just waiting.
Okay.
I think it's this one, the one about pens. That's
No.
not.
No.
Bugger.
What's that one?
Really, you don't need to know.
Ish.
It's just...
Do you want to talk about pens? I haven't even mentioned Le Mans once tonight so far. Anyway, moving on.
Here we have.
Would you rather?
Ooh.
So you have the choice of every dram you've had up until this point. You can go back to any one, and we're taking cost out of this association, or moving forward, you're never allowed to have the same dram twice. So the argument sort of is here, you want to keep discovering, and that's great. But, just on that Sunday albo when you just need to sit down, or like of an evening and have something that you guaranteed to love, it's always going to be a bit of a crapshoot because you don't know.
Well, I reckon I'd have to go for never try the same thing twice, just because there's so much going on now. Like if you cut yourself off from all these distilleries opening and new whiskies, and that would suck. So I would go for that option.
You'd have FOMO for sure.
Yeah. Big FOMO.
Same. I'd have to say the same. Yeah.
But so FOMO is definitely a thing. But what if we're all, in the same room having a drink, or even like this, and I'm just drinking Jameson, you go, Christ, it'd be nice to drink that again.
You're trying to turn us around to your side of the fence. Is that what you're doing? I feel like you're trying to make us change our answer.
No, I'm providing a very balance. Do you not know how polling works? It's a very balanced, fair question.
I actually think I feel like I've changed my opinion from the last time I answered this.
Yeah.
Because I think I was sitting there going, I'd love to drink the stuff that I had previously. And there's certain whiskies that I've had, and it's like, God, to be able to try that one more time again would be incredible. But the rarity of the opportunity to try that is so rare. And you kind of think, actually, there's so much more out there that I do want to try. And probably fits, even if it's like that one thing was delicious, there's probably something pretty similar that I haven't yet tried. You just go, yeah, sod it. If we remove money from the equation, there's a lot that I haven't tried that are ready to drink.
Yeah, I think that's what it bottles down to. The more you think about it, the more you will guaranteed to go insane if you can't try the new things. And a quick comment there, Jonathan says, what happens if you run out of things to try? The beauty of it is you never will. It's the beauty of being in whiskey, and me not having to get a real job anytime soon is there's always something new to try from Australia and all over the world.
I feel like
the joy is that Scotty never gets to drink Jameson again at 40% or 43%.
We're not bringing that up. I made my mistake. I admitted it. We're moving. All I can ask is the forgiveness of the whiskey drinking public of Australia. I promise I won't make that mistake again.
All right, next one. What's the next one you're going to flash?
Well, I think that there's one here that I think we might already have the answer to this based on what the Desert Island dram was from Bree. So would you rather you can drink any other spirit for the rest of your life, but just no whiskey, or you can drink whiskey but nothing else? So there's no tequila, no rum, no brandy, no gin, no vodka.
I'm good. I'm whiskey.
Oh,
yep.
yeah.
I can live that way.
That's you can't ask me that.
Yeah.
This
is going to be a fun, light-hearted chat. Welcome to Roundtable Torture Session.
Yes.
And not even like fun 50 Shades of Grey torture. This is just torture.
Yeah, we haven't even started on torturing Matt Bailey yet.
I know, he really got off scot-free.
We've got a photo.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
It's all right.
However, sorry, when
Yeah.
the photo comes up, you still need to answer.
We'll get it in.
Okay, all other spirits. Oh, God.
Heard it here first. Bree Attwood hates whiskey. That's what I did.
No, see, this is so shit because I often get asked, do you even like whiskey? Okay, so you can't really get me to choose. I want to drink all of them.
That's right.
You know what? I wish I'd been asked that question. I have never been asked that question.
Really?
It would be so fucking wonderful if someone actually did that in person and there was a camera on it.
Well,
all right.
The only reason we're really here is to create the Daily Mail's headlines for tomorrow, so it doesn't really matter whether it's true or not.
Are we doing this photo thing?
I don't know how to do it, to be quite honest with you.
Liar.
Let's just say Matt Bailey is a bit of a tosser and be done with it. Correct, we were going, correct?
Yeah.
Should we stay on this lot permanently and take Matt's spot?
Yeah, please. It's a huge improvement. There's no headphones.
Wow. Is that real? It looks like the guy from Despicable.
Yeah, that's what he sent to us all today.
I know that I mentioned
So very silly of him.
can be a weird place. The group chat between the four of us it's another level.
Can someone screenshot this shit just so he can see this, please?
It's saved.
How do you screenshot?
I got you. Lovely.
Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah, I think he had a bit of a hangover this morning. He started getting quite active in our group and getting grumpy about a couple of things. Last night at like 12:30, and then at 1 o'clock I was giving him shit back and forth, and I got the right. That's it. I've had enough of this, and he called Drunken Bailey. It was so wonderful. It was so hilarious.
I wanted to participate, but I was going to bed at the point that it all started. And I was just like, started chatting away and talking like I'm going down a rabbit hole if I carry on this conversation. It's like, can I go? I was like, do I tell you that I'm going to bed? I was like, no, go to bed and just go. Just disappear from here and start again.
All right.
Yeah, just a bit of housekeeping there, Nat. Definitely, you choose. You could choose whiskey or all other spirits, but wine is still there. You could do that because obviously this sort of torture, we encourage you to do it with your friends to be a parlour game.
Yeah. We'll be releasing a card game called Whisky Roundtable very shortly. With all of these available.
Yeah. Taking whiskey, the best, most fun thing in the world, and making it shit. Buy the card game.
Yeah.
Has anyone read the whiskey book by Christ, now I completely blank on the writer. He's a Scottish journalist, but he wasn't a whiskey writer on his travels around Scotland.
I think I know the one.
He was a newspaper journalist rather than a whiskey writer, and they said, "Oh, do you want to write a book on whiskey?" And so he travelled around Scotland. He's from Scotland himself. Travelled around and picked up his mates from time to time. It just reminded me of a section in that where his friend that was part of this group wrote or created a board game. And there was one night where they were sitting there drinking very heavily, 2-3 bottles of whiskey down. And he was like, "Let's play the board game." It's like, oh, okay. And it had 4 levels as a board game. It was just like there were 4 different boards and 4 different levels that you moved through. And no one understood what was going on. And the next morning, they were just taking the piss out of it, going, "Do you think maybe one board for the board game? maybe let's just bring it down a bit."
Well, like we can include the drinking game of every time I swear online and upset my mum or my grandma. That also can be like a renowned drinking game because I do it enough and then I get in trouble enough at the end of it. And Jason thinks that's a great idea and he'd buy that.
I could see you wanting me to put that comment live, but obviously we were, practice responsible service of whiskey drinking here. So
absolutely.
It is getting dangerously close to the after party territory. So I want to get
raw spirit, Ian Banks.
I have the tequila for the after party. Ooh.
I want to say a big thank you to everyone for being part of tonight's roundtable. We have answered a few questions, none of the ones we planned to. We had hoped to tell the Backwoods story. We got close and then got sidetracked about 30 seconds in. So, good people, good whiskey, good town. Sign up on their website because after this, they may not give you an allocation ever again. We did get to have a bit of fun at Matt Bailey because we're not jealous at all that the Whisky and Alement Society tasting is going on right now. Don't care. What about it? Who? Matt Bailey. Don't care.
They do them. No one's watching.
No, but when we say goodbye, please go and hound them and just get stuck into them on that. Done.
Yeah, it's also private. So
I thought it was private.
They've learned.
So hack into their Facebook and then...
Hang on. I'll see if I can find the link.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone for watching this. This is it's so much fun to be a part of. I still don't understand how I got here and how this all happened, and hopefully no one wakes up and realises, so I don't get to do it anymore. Big thank you to Leigh and Bree, the Attwoods from Backwoods.
Who I have a whiskey crush on now. As you said, I would.
It was obvious. It was
going to happen.
Thank you to everyone who watched along. Thank you to all our parents who watched along tonight.
Yes, thanks, Mum.
Most importantly, thank you to all the offshore Facebook bots we are paying to up the view count on this as well. Because you're the ones.
That's actually not. Don't fucking joke about that. That's not true.
I could only afford 30 of them though. So.
There's enough of that shit happening in this industry. We don't need to fucking add to it.
I've only had time to
it's after 8 o'clock. I'm allowed to swear.
Yeah. We have social media now. It's a thing that kind of makes us legitimate in people's eyes. So watch us there. We will be there. If you missed out, there was a little bit of behind the scenes double disc DVD extras content on the Instagram just before we went live. Basically, if you want to jump on 10 minutes before this stream, and we're going to try and catch Alex doing your hair each week, is basically the answer to that. Or alternatively, Milne going and grabbing his kebab that he grabs.
This is the thing. Milne can just show up, stuffing his face with pizza. I'm an hour of prep in there because, I don't wash my hair during the week and I have to do it just for this. But it's just the boys show up easy and free, and like Scotty's hungover as fuck and Milne's stuffing his face. But yeah, no.
I haven't left the office. I'm still at work.
Exactly.
That's content and more next week again. Roddy sums it up on the comments. Not sure how I got here, but enjoyed it. Signed up for Backwoods releases. I agree, mate. No one.
But hey, Roddy, how you doing?
Live streams are a weird, wonderful. Yes, you can go. Google is your best friend. Google Backwoods. Sign up to their mailing list. They will be opening a cellar door, distillery door before the end of the year. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Jonathan, we will promise you more. Oh, there you go. There's the pizza. That sort of action. On that horrific note, and hopefully he goes back to Bondi where there's no lights for next week. We will see you next week. I feel like Milne copped a little bit too much because Bailey wasn't here tonight. But
Hey, I was nice for the first 10 seconds.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to close it off now. So.
One more thing. Next week, I think we're going to be together.
No.
No?
Nope.
I'm not here next week.
We're going to be together.
I got one. I'm going to be doing
Bye, everyone.
that.
That's the conversation that we have. And on that horrific note, some of us might, maybe not. Who knows? It's next week. It's worry about it then.
Hit the button.
I'll see you in 2.